Hey, thanks for being with me today. Do you remember putting together your first resume? Man, I know I do. I was applying for this place called Hume Lake Christian Camps. It's an amazing camp in California. And I remember when I got to the portion of my resume, which was essentially the work qualifications or past experience, I started to put pen to paper, and I realized I didn't have a lot. See, my work qualifications or work experience consisted of 5 years as a paper boy in my hometown, as well as a year and a half working at Applebee's as an expediter and server. And I remember being really nervous about my interview that was coming up in a couple of days. It was an in-person, face-to-face interview, and I started to rack my brain. Certainly, I have to have more qualifications to list than this, but that was really all I had. And so I got a few more pages into the application, and there was a section that was entitled, Jobs You Are Willing to Do. And there were 28 boxes to check of all these different roles that a summer staffer at Hume Lake Christian Camps could fill. And so I remember checking 26 out of the 28 of those boxes. And then a few days later, I had an amazing interview. And a couple of weeks after that, I got a phone call from a guy. And he said that he wanted me to consider doing a job at Hume Lake Christian Camps called summer counseling staff. Well, I told him I don't remember checking the box for that particular role. And he says, well, that's because there's not a box to check for that one. See, we take all the applications that we receive for summer staff and we choose 20 people to ask to consider joining the team of summer counseling staff. And I hung up the phone, and before I hung up the phone, I told him, hey, let me pray about it, because I knew that was the Christian thing to do. And I sat back and I racked my brain. Why in the world would they choose me for this role? I had 5 years experience as a local paper boy, a year and a half at Applebee's, and I'd only been following Jesus for about 6 months. And I called the guy back and I told him, man, I would really love the opportunity. And as I dug into my time at Hume Lake Christian Camps, God revealed to me that they weren't looking for my worthiness, they were looking for my willingness. And we're going to read a passage in Matthew chapter 9 where Jesus has just called Matthew to be a follower of his. See, Matthew is a tax collector. He's an outcast of society. He says yes to that invitation, again, not based on his worthiness, but solely based on his willingness. He says yes to that opportunity. He throws a party with a bunch of his friends, who, by the way, are also social outcasts at the time, and he invites Jesus, and Jesus gladly comes. And he's interacting with all these people, and the Pharisees, the religious leaders, hear about it, and they approach his other followers, and they ask them the question of, why does your teacher hang out or associate or break bread with sinners? Here's Jesus' response. This is verse 12 of chapter 9. It says, on hearing this, Jesus said, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but the sinners. See, as Jesus unfolds this quick teaching to the religious leaders and all the others in the room, it had to have been impactful for Matthew to hear this, because as Jesus shares, what he basically says is, I am not interested in your religious rituals, but what I'm interested in is you being willing to have your heart and your life transformed by a power greater than your own. He's interested in his willingness, not his worthiness. See, God considers you worthy. Long before you ever had the opportunity to choose him, he chose you. He sent his son, wrapped him in flesh to live a life that you and I couldn't live, to die a death that you and I deserve, only to prove that he has the power and authority to make dead things live again and to extend us a gift that is greater than any other gift. He has already decided that you are worthy. Now he just desires for you to be willing to just open yourself up a little to accept that good news of great joy for all people. I love that we had the opportunity to study Matthew's first chapter where he lays out the genealogy of Jesus. See, back in these times, a genealogy was your resume. And people, as they put pen to paper, there were certain family members that had sketchy past that they chose to remove. Matthew did the exact opposite. As he lays out Jesus's genealogy, he includes all those people that were social outcasts, all those people that society would deem unworthy. But yet, in their story, they had a willingness to be used to fulfill God's purposes. So my friends, it's not for you or for I to decide our worthiness. That has already been chosen by the one that created and knows and loves you more than you could ever hope or imagine. All he needs is just a little bit of willingness, just a little crack into the door of your heart, and he will flood that space and fill it to capacity. I hope you have had an amazing new year. I hope 2025 is off to an amazing start for you, and I look forward to being right back with you again soon. Have a great day, my friends. We'll see you next time.